All right, dear friends and audio nerds, you know what time it is. This is Overrated, Underrated, which is a series on my channel where I just go into my reverb feed in the Pro Audio section. I am just going to scroll through until I see something that I have experience with, and then I'm going to let you know if I think it's overrated or underrated and the reasons why. I always love doing these, and honestly, they're just, it's fun. But with that being said, I always want to say this as well. This is a safe space for differing opinions. So if I say something that you do not agree with, feel free to let me know in the comments. It's totally fine. But I have one rule for my comment section. Don't be a dick. That's all. You just need to have respect for the other people on the other side of the screen and keyboard. They are real people. Just be considerate to your internet neighbors. But again, we can get into straight up fist fights about preferences and gear if you want, because let's be honest, if that is the only thing that we're going to argue about, how lucky are we? You know, worst case scenario, we like different mics. Oh no. Okay, let's go ahead and jump in. Let's see what we got here. Oh, man. Oh, shit. Starting out real strong. The reason why I say oh, shit is because anytime I come across something that I think is actually flying under the radar a little bit, I don't want to blow it up and then just make the used market on these things just go crazy. So there's a little internal battle here, but with that being said, that's why you click on these videos, right? Okay, Neumann U89. Yeah, I know it's $2,686 with $80 shipping. This is not a affordable mic, so to speak, but honestly, when you compare it to the U87AI, which a lot of people consider as like a gold standard for home studios, which I think is kind of wild. Like a home studio microphone, for me, the sweet spot is between $500 and $1,500, but that's another subject for another time. But these microphones cost less than the new U87AI, and they sound better. They sound way better. The U89 is flatter. It's a little bit more agreeable on the top end. Like these were the successors to the original U87i, and they intended this to be much more versatile. And it absolutely is. It sounds warm. It sounds great on just about anything you point it at. I really love the U89. It's really good on like percussion and drum applications as well. Like the front of kit, you cannot go wrong. Even if you just want to like stick it on like a snare drum just to see, like chances are it's probably going to be an amazing sound. And I know using a U89 on a snare drum might feel like a waste, but use it somewhere and you'll likely love it. I mean, it's that classic German sound, right? This is that solid state German microphone sound. It's got that beefy transformer in there. These are absolutely stellar microphones. As far as I know, no one is making counterfeits of these, and everybody's making counterfeits of the U87. So be careful in the used market for that. But as far as I know, and I could be wrong, you may want to double check, no one's making counterfeits of the U89. And the U89, in my humble opinion, will beat out the U87 in just about every single category. I love the U89. It's such a great microphone. I want one for myself. Please do not destroy the used market on these because I would love to get my hands on one. But again, I also don't think I could justify spending any more than like $1,500 for microphones in my home studio because I go to other studios and those studios have cool microphones like this to use. But either way, these are fantastic. Massively underrated. Okay, we got one. The Lion Audio B173 preamp. This is the Mark I. I have owned the Mark I. I have owned the Mark II. Both of them, I hope I don't make anybody mad, but actually, I don't care. Let me know. Overrated. I am extremely critical of 1073 clones. I have used So many of them. At one point, I think I had used just about every single one on the market. And I love Black Lion Audio. I have Black Lion Audio in my rack right now. I've got the Blue E500. I use their patch bay. I think they make great stuff. I've talked a lot about the Tour preamp that they make, which is affordable and great. The B12A, affordable and fantastic. This one, I don't like as much. In my opinion, I think they got the character of that like transformer-based 1073 sound. Like the character is there, but that is almost the easiest thing to clone out of a 1073. And in my opinion, that is not the only reason why you use a 1073. You also use a 1073 for that like mid push that happens in the grit, in the grain that subtly gets baked into that track. Like the saturation, absolutely, the grit, the grain, but it's also this bigness to the signal. And that bigness is usually the missing factor in every 1073 clone that I've used that's like under $1,000. Which is unfortunate. I wish that there was a really solid 1073 clone for sub 1,000, but I just personally, I have not used one that I would say is like excellent. They're all generally good, but I don't know. When I use something like this, I just miss the real deal way too much. I've talked to like electrical engineers and guys that have like built a bunch of DIY stuff, and I've talked a lot about the 1073, and a lot of them have told me that it's not the transformer that makes the 1073. The transformer just gives it the character. So a lot of places are like, oh, we use Carnhill transformers, and although that's great, that isn't necessarily a sign of the quality of the preamp. They were all saying that a couple other things really are what makes a 1073 a 1073, and a few of those are like the power supply. You can't really cheap out on the power supply, and like a couple other things like 3 amplification stages as opposed to 2. I don't know. There's a few different theories, and I am not an electrical engineer, so I cannot say for certain the exact things that make certain 1073 clones great and certain ones not so good. But this one just left me with a little bit to be desired. So overrated on this one. All right, here's another one. Solid State Logic Big Six. These are cool. I like how this guy's got his like in a rolling rack, like racked up. Like that's pretty cool. I like how that looks. And looks like some sort of manly thing above that in the patch bay. That's great. I just really like how that looks. So props for that. Okay, Solid State Logic Big Six. I am going to call it properly rated. It's a little expensive for what you get, but it is solid stuff. Like here's the deal. I hate complaining about this type of stuff because it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't. The only thing that matters in audio equipment is how it sounds, right? Right. Why does it matter that I just don't like the look of it? I don't like the XLR connections on top. What? Like, come on. I'm being so picky, I know, but I don't know. There's something about that I'm not a huge fan of. It just kind of looks closer to like a Mackie mixer, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm being way too hard on the looks. I think honestly it does. It looks okay. And honestly, these things do sound really good. I'm not the biggest fan of SSL preamps in general. If you know me, I've done the review on the SSL Revival 4000 series channel strip. I've spent a lot of time on SSL consoles, and in general, I'm not a huge SSL preamp guy, so that I could kind of like take it or leave it. They're fast. They're not usually full of a ton of character. They just kind of sound fine, you know? Like, it's the guy who made, a straight, C+ average in high school. Like, he's doing good. It's fine. Like, that's kind of how it feels. Anyways, but with that being said, you do get that SSL EQ, which does have some limitation on it. I know you got the high and low shelf. I think there's a mid band in there, and if I'm not mistaken, someone please correct me in the comments if I am mistaken. But I think that you've got a fixed mid frequency band, and I think it's like 700 or 800 hertz, which, I mean, that's a usable frequency spot to be for your mid-range band, but I don't know. Sometimes I would prefer that to be closer to like 1K, 1.5K, like somewhere in there. So it would personally annoy me if I wasn't able to get like into that true mid-range and be able to sweep that around a little bit. But with that being said, for broad general tone shaping, it's not bad. But if I'm going to pay that amount of money for an SSL mixer, like, yeah, you are essentially getting like a really tiny recording console. And so even just using this as like a summing mixer, like I see the value of where it is, but it's like, oh, I just want a little bit more for how much it costs. And if they made it a little bit better looking. All right, I'll stop talking about that. Generally, I think these sound good, but they're expensive for what they are. If you end up getting one of these, I hope you have preamps that you like to use and use those inserts on there. Or if you're just using this in like a hybrid mixing setup, then this may be very well worth it to you just for that, if you just want to get that big console sound doing some hybrid mixing. So properly rated. All right, the JLM Audio LA500A. These fly under the radar a little bit. I like these. I'm going to call it underrated. Generally speaking, a decent price. Like, you can get these as like kits that you can build yourself. And I think that's like the main way that they're sold. But you can also go through, oh yeah, like Resistance Audio, this guy here, which does a great job building a lot of these units, and get them pre-made. That's also an option as well. But this is basically like having an LA3A in your 500 series rack with an additional bit of versatility. And that versatility is going to be right here in that threshold knob. You can pull that out, and it actually slows down the attack. A lot of people like that for bass. I think it sounds good for bass for sure, but I used a pair of these on a drum bus once and on that slow attack, and it was awesome. It sounded so good. Like, it accentuated just the smack and the thwack of the drums, and that just helped those transients to really come through, but in a controlled manner. It was great. But in general, JLM Audio makes a lot of really good stuff. You can even tell just from the components that are being used here. Quality materials, quality stuff, sounds really good. Gives you that LA3A sound. If you're anything like me and you just love the sound of an LA3A on an electric guitar amp, it does it. It does that thing really well. So great little 500 series compressors. Underrated. All right, we got the API 512C. I don't know that I've ever talked about actual API preamps. I always talk about the clones because I've used a lot of the clones too. But API 512C, underrated. These are great. How could they not be anything except for underrated? Of all of the modern API preamps, these are some that I'm like the least excited about. They have that somewhat cleaner, they have that hi-fi sheen, right? But I really like the 512V. That's the one that I'm a big fan of myself, but I really do like the 512C. You cannot go wrong. I mean, this is an API preamp through and through. As you see, you've got input and output transformers. You've got the 2520 op amp. That is the API signature right there. These things sound great. So if you are looking for that punchy, open, classic hi-fi sheen, like that finished, straight out of the preamp kind of sound, this can help to nudge your signal into that direction. I love API preamps. Plus, I think there is something to be said about like the 500 series preamp thing not every preamp sounds good in 500 series. To date, I think that there's really only one 1073 preamp clone that's 500 series that I've used that I think actually sounds really good, which is the BAE. But certain preamps, they just don't do as well in 500 series. But API wrote the book. They started 500 series stuff. And so these preamps are quite literally designed and made for the 500 series system. And they sound great. And this is also one of the reasons why you can get 500 series API clones, and those generally sound really good. But some preamps, some, not all, just generally don't sound quite as good in 500 series. I've heard a lot of people talk about like headroom is different, and like a fullness, or as I call bigness, out of a preamp can just suffer a little bit. But with that being said, the API stuff, not the case. Always sounds good, even in the 500 series. So API 512C, underrated, can't go wrong, great option. All right, here we go. Authentic Neumann TLM102. It's kind of a red flag that the first thing that I saw was authentic. And I don't know if this one is a fake, but there are so many fake Neumann TLM102s, 103s, TLM49s. Like, those are being mass produced overseas and sold on Temu. And the ones that are sold on Temu still have that Neumann badge. And so what a lot of people are doing is they're ordering those for, I don't know, $50, $100 a pop. And then they're just posting them on sites like Reverb as genuine or authentic or whatever, and charging you essentially a deal for a mint condition or B stock or open box or whatever it is. And really what they're doing is they're turning $300 profit on you. So don't fall for that. Be cautious when purchasing used Neumann microphones, especially the TLM 102, 103, U87, TLM 49. There's a couple others, but KM 84s or the 184s, those are being copied at crazy numbers. So the fact that it says authentic right here, red flag. And then about this listing, 100% authentic. Internals are genuine. Okay, if you have recently bought a TLM 102 or 103, there is one way that you can tell right off the bat, which is unscrew the head basket, take a look on the inside. If it's got a transformer, that just means it's not genuine. TLM in the Neumann TLM microphone stands for transformerless. So it does not have a transformer, or it's not supposed to anyway. And on a lot of the fakes, they'll actually have little eensy-teensy tiny transformers in there. Okay, let's pretend that this one is an authentic Neumann TLM 102. Is it overrated or underrated? God, misunderstood and slightly, gosh. Okay, I'm going to say slightly underrated, misunderstood. That's going to be my classification for it. God, there's so much nuance here. Here's the deal. TLM 102, not a vocal mic, not really. You can use it as a vocal mic and it sounds fine. There's a lot of people that make great sounding vocals with the TLM 102. I'm not here to dispute that. But for me, for my use cases, this is not a vocal mic. This is a instrument microphone, and it sounds really good on electric guitar cabs. I like it on that. It also works well on drums. It just, the way that it's voiced, it's got a slightly more, it's not really like a scooped microphone, but it does have a slightly more scooped sound to it. So that does fit some of those applications a little bit better. But with that being said, a lot of people buy this as the most affordable Neumann microphone, and then they just use it as a vocal mic because they're like, oh, it's a Neumann, it's a vocal mic. And it's like, the top end really does not agree with a lot of vocalists. So keep that in mind. If you're going to buy a $400 or $500 or $600 vocal microphone, there are so many amazing options these days. You can kind of look over the TLM 102 if that's what you're getting it for. But with that being said, it does sound good on a lot of other instrumentation. So if you are looking for a microphone that can sound good on instruments and not necessarily just as like, oh, this is my vocal mic because it's a Neumann and because those have a certain pedigree, then yeah, it can be slightly underrated. It's still overpriced for what it is. Like I would say the TLM102 should cost about $300. The TLM103 should cost about $500, and the U87 shouldn't cost any more than about $1,200 or so. But those are some hot takes. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you agree. Okay, let's move on. Grace Design M101 microphone preamp. These are underrated. I don't know if I've talked about these on this channel much before. I know I brought them up in my tier list video on preamps, which go watch that. A lot of people ask me like, oh, what's my opinion on this preamp or that preamp? Just watch that video. I go through all of them. And I am a preamp guy. Someone was making fun of me in my comments and said that, like, what was it? It was like, who do you think you are, a preamp sommelier? And I was like, I want to add that to my YouTube description because kinda, I love preamps. I do. So I will be your preamp sommelier. Here is the Grace Design. This is what I think of when I think of Grace Design. There's like two things, really. Number one, I think of clean. I think crystal clear with this huge bottom end to it. It is big. It is upfront. It is clean. Those are, they're phenomenal. They sound really good. Fidelity through the roof. 10 out of 10. Clean. Great. When you want that sound, it does that sound and it does it very well. But I'm not a huge clean preamp guy. I kind of want to get a pair of clean preamps now that I've got more colored preamp options in my studio, but clean is generally a lot easier to get, and it's harder to fake the sound of like genuine tubes and transformers and the saturation that comes from a really high quality preamp on the front end of your audio, which is why I've typically invested more in those kind of preamps. Because in my opinion, yes, plugins are amazing and they're getting better every single day, but they're not quite there yet when it comes to emulating preamps. Like, I just don't think they are. So the Grace Design, it's amazing. It's the Disney preamp. So like when you think of Disney voiceover, when you think of like the Disney princess sing-alongs and things like that, there's a strong chance that they are using this preamp. It sounds great for that kind of stuff. And so for a lot of people, if they're chasing after specs of lowest possible noise and like all of that, and they just want the cleanest possible uncolored sound, let me just offer you one of the two greatest options, which is the Grace Design M101. And the other would be like the Millennia preamps. Those are also pretty clean and great for that. It'll do a wonderful job for you. Great for classical style recordings. Like classical recordings, you typically aren't going to want to add in a whole bunch of transformer or tube saturation and vibe and mojo and feel.
Welcome to the Kansas City Symphony. You can see the stage set way down there. And I'm up in the attic right now because I'm going to show you how we get the mics all the way from up here. Get my main mics and others and feed them over to 16 channels of pre's. These are the Grace 801 mic preamps, and their one job is mic preamp. And they can take any mic, turn it up with zero hiss and just like extremely solid low end, and you never feel like you're missing any part of that microphone. I installed these right away as soon as I started working here.
So for that, the Grace Design works exceptionally well. So underrated. They sound great, and the price point that they're at is really honestly appropriate for what you're getting. So $500 for a channel for one of the biggest sounding clean preamps on the market. I love them. They're great. Not my personal favorite to use all the time, not what I'm thinking of when I think of like, you know, modern rock or rap or even modern pop like vocals. Now, you probably want something that's going to offer a little bit more color, but for something that's clean, great. Underrated. Telefunken TF47. These are cool. Okay. Here's the deal. These microphones do the U47 thing. They really do. And with that being said, everybody talks about wanting a U47 until they use a U47. The U47 does this thing, which is it is so pronounced in the upper mids in the way that it features and pushes out those mid-range frequencies. It's either going to work beautifully or it's going to be the absolute wrong microphone for you. And for some vocalists, a U47 will sound like it is inside of your nasal cavity. Like, nasal singers, beware of a 47 style microphone. It's of course going to be different on every voice and you'll have to try it to know for sure. But generally speaking, if I am recording a vocalist and they have a slightly nasal tonality, I am not leaning towards a U47 style microphone. And in fact, I will most likely move in maybe a 67 style microphone or a 251 or a C12 style microphone if I've got those options available. Like that would be the way that I would go as opposed to a U47. U47, when it's in solo, almost doesn't sound very good. Like that's one of those things. And as, you know, someone who has used a lot of U47 style microphones, when you solo out the U47, everyone goes, oh, that sounds mid-rangey. It's almost like those telephone frequencies get kind of pushed out a little bit. But keep in mind, when you put that vocal into the mix, that is one of the things that helps to elevate that vocal over a very dense sounding instrument section. So, section. So, TF47, it does the 47 thing. It will push out those mid-range frequencies, but for the wrong vocalist, it does not sound good. I owned a TF47, and although it actually sounded pretty good on my voice, I could not get it to sound very good on many other people, which is why I ended up selling it. And I paid a lot more for mine. I'm not sure if they've dropped in price or what, but $949. I know I paid over $1,000. I don't remember exactly how much I paid, but I think they, at the time, might have been around $1,200 or $1,500 new, if I'm not mistaken. I could be totally wrong about that, though. But in general, I'm going to call it underrated, but oh my God, footnotes, that doesn't mean that that is the best microphone for you. So keep that in mind. Everybody thinks they want a U47 until they hear a U47. And that was always one of my favorite things to do in class too, is like solo out the vocal on the U47 and then everybody goes, oh, I thought that would sound better. And it's like, you're not listening to music in solo. You listen to everything all together. And when it's all together, oh, that vocal really cuts through a dense mix, like that kind of thing. So, okay, let's do one more. Hell yeah, strong close. Condenser microphone, Oktava MK219, USSR 1989, XLR number 9. Wow, that's a lot of letters and numbers. Underrated. I love the Oktava 219s. I love Oktava mics. Actually, I have some on my desk right here, which are the MK-012s, which the reason why I've got these on my desk, I am currently getting ready to do a big comparison video of small diaphragm condensers. I'm going to put the MK-012s up against the Lion Audio LA500s, the Warm Audio W84s. I've even talked with Serrano Audio about their vintage 84s. Roswell Audio, Mic Parts, which is Roswell Pro Audio, their vintage style 84 microphones, as well as a couple others. I'm going to do a direct blind comparison of all of those microphones on acoustic instruments. Hopefully, if I can get it, a piano, drums, drum overheads, like all that kind of stuff. So if you are someone who values content like that and you are not subscribed to this channel, please do so because yeah, that's coming up soon. Oh, and other fun content, which is also the reason why I'm using the Beyer Dynamic M160 ribbon microphone for my voice today, is that I am testing it out to make sure everything works. I'm borrowing this microphone because I've got a session this week of Best Bear is coming into my studio here, and we are going to make a stripped down, more acoustic EP here in this studio. And hopefully, and I haven't discussed this with Blue or Best Bear, but hopefully we can do another mix competition. Hopefully I can open up those multi-tracks for you guys. I'm definitely going to be recording everything in that real life session, and I'm going to be posting it to the channel as well. So subscribe so you don't miss any of that content. Lots of cool stuff coming up. And let's go back to this. Yeah, condenser microphone Oktava. This also is like a vintage one, and it looks like a vintage AKG, the C12A, I think, which I love that look. It's kind of cool. These Oktava microphones do kind of look like a Russian cosmonaut pulled the wrong lever and they fell to earth, and somebody found it and was like, oh, microphone. Anyways, they sound great. I like the MK219s. Generally speaking, when they're bone stock, they sound good. I have one that is modified, and when you modify those microphones, they turn into a different beast. They sound good on a lot of different stuff. They are workhorse microphones. The modified ones, which I've got a pair, one of them's broken. They are great for drum overheads. They're great on toms. I like them on toms a lot. Great on acoustic guitar. Even really great on a vocal. And they are a little bit on the warmer side, on the darker side, once they're modified. But I kind of love that sound anyways. But those microphones are rad. They just sound good. The fact that you can still get them for under about $500 is pretty great. When I was originally buying my first MK219, I paid, I think it was like $65 for it on eBay, and it served me really well. And I eventually got that one modded and then bought another one that a friend of mine modded, which that's the one that's broken. Be careful buying modified microphones from friends. But anyways, those microphones sound great. Really usable. Oh, also really great on electric guitar cabs. Lovely microphones. If you can find one for around $100 to $200 and you just want to take a risk on like a good workhorse microphone, they can sound really good. And if you can do that and then eventually get it modified, that takes that microphone up into a new stratosphere of where it starts competing with microphones in that like $750 to like $1,200 range of like new microphones. It'll start competing with those. They sound really good. So underrated. Love the Oktava MK219. So good. I want to get mine repaired. If you know a good repair guy, drop it in the comments down below. All right, guys, this was a fun one. I like this a lot. If you enjoy these Overrated, Underrated series where I just kind of do deep dives on this gear, let me know in the comments. Hit the like button if you liked this, and if you like this series and want me to continue to make these types of videos. All right. Yeah, I think that's all I got. All right, I'll see you guys next week with, more fun stuff coming out soon. Subscribe.